When I was 19, I had an experience that changed my life when I worked for the Forest Service. And I was unprepared one day for the duties that they were going to ask me. And they asked me if I would hike up to high mountain ranger cabins and unlock them and get them ready for the season. So the first day that they had me do that, I had never been to the country. I had basically not a very good map. It wasn't a topographical map. I had never been on the hiking trail. I had no compass with me at the time because I didn't know that was going to be my duty for the day, and I wasn't prepared. And I had no survival kit. I was wearing shorts because it was about 80 degrees. It was up near Mirror Lake, if you're familiar with the Wasatch-cache National Forest on the northeastern corner of Utah. Up over the pass is Cheyenne, Wyoming. And I learned so much because what happened was I was dropped off by a U.S. Forest Service employee at probably about noon that day. And they told me they would pick me up after dark where they had dropped me off. Actually, I probably was dropped off more like 10 a.m. So I took off, and when I first left, I could see the trail markings, and I could see a few footprints, and then of course they died off. But I could still see the trail markings, and the snow kept getting deeper, and I was higher and higher in elevation. And it was a glorious day, a real sunny day like today. And I went farther and farther and farther, and it was just so sunny and warm. A lot of snow up there high in the mountains, but very warm temperature. And then it got to be about this time of the day when, well, actually it was a little before this. Right now there's a lot of long shadows, and the shadows were just starting. And I thought pretty near the cabin, and I started to break through the snow, just like we do here occasionally with the warm sun hitting this trail. So what started off to be not such a big deal turned into a potentially life-threatening situation. I was wearing really nice rugged hiking boots, wool socks, U.S. Forest Service issued shorts. I was a volunteer, but I was a level 2 law enforcement officer, and I had a lot of other duties as well. And I volunteered that summer for the Forest Service, just getting a small stipend for living expenses. And I had free housing at the Forest Service. Anyways, I had just a little U.S. Forest Service issued shirt on, and of course my underwear, and that was it. I had a lighter in my pocket, not that I smoke, but for survival, and that was the only thing that I had with me. I received no training on survival at that time, so I basically only had my survival knowledge that I had accrued, which was little in my years of growing up in Michigan at that time. So now I'm going through the snow up to my crotch with each step. Each step becomes more and more daunting, and not only that, the outer edge of the snow has a crust. And the crust actually started to cut me. And it cut me so bad that I started to bleed. So I started to bleed profusely about my legs as I would break through the crust of the snow with each step. And I knew I couldn't stop. Of course, I turned around at that point and started heading back down the mountain. And you could just see a trail of blood in the snow. And then, obviously it was very, very slow going, and I had made such huge headway going up because I was on top of the snow. But as the temperature warmed and the snow melted, of course I dropped deep, deep into the snow. So I started to get a little concerned, and I also could no longer see my tracks where I had come up, nor could I see any tracks of anyone else who had hiked the trail, because as the snow got warm from the sunshine, it actually melted off that layer of tracks. And I wasn't even sure I was in the right spot because certain areas, the trail markers were deeper than the snow. And so, or the snow was deeper than the trail marker, so they weren't visible. So once I got off trail, I really, it would have taken me hours and hours, and I would have had to spend at least a day overnight in the wilderness with nothing if I would have turned around and backtracked to where I had first started bleeding and tried to retrace my steps that way. So instead, I continued on down. I'm actually very good with paying attention to terrain, and something I've been blessed with even as a child. So as I was traveling down the mountain, I recognized, or at least I thought I did, a lot of features, which I wondered if I was seeing things or if I was in fact on the right trail. So it was pretty hairy, and I was never so happy to see a trail as I was. It was after dark when I arrived. I had a small little flashlight, and I stepped out onto the road, and there was the headlights of the Forest Service truck. Of course, I thought they'd been waiting for me for hours. I had no idea, how long they had been there. And they were running late, and they had just pulled up. So I hopped in. I didn't even say too much other than they could obviously see my legs were all cut up. And I didn't make a big deal about it, but I learned from that. That was a mistake that could have cost me my life. I was unprepared. I had not enough skills to be out there alone doing what I was doing. I underestimated the natural surroundings, and I overestimated my abilities at that age. So I have went on a lifelong quest since that time to better my survival skills, to not only better my survival skills, but teach what I know to others, and to never allow myself to be in that situation again. So that's why today, even though I'm heading out on a day hike, I'm packed like I'm out for bear, as the old adage goes, because you never know when you might have to spend a day or a week in the wild. Something could happen, and I'm prepared now. Never again will I be put in that situation, unless I do it as a test to my primitive survival skills. But no need to when I'm just going out on a hike. I have nothing to prove to myself or anyone else. It's just best to be safe. So, just wanted to share that with you, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.